Habs free agency reports are escalating fast as multiple free agents have indicated that they would want to sign with the Montreal Canadiens, including an impact winger just off of the Washington Capitals team this year. We got to break down the recent report on the players wanting to head to Montreal this offseason and how Montreal, or whether Montreal should make this happen. But it's not just that, Jesse. We're seeing trades go down every day now in the NHL with Mason Marchment and Erik Haula, and this has big implications on the Habs' plans as they are one of the teams in a prime position to make a very similar move. We'll explain why, and to open this video, we gotta talk about something Arpen Basu just said about the landscape of the NHL and how it's not going to be as easy as Habs fans think to make a deal. So, I know it doesn't sound great, but listen, we'll discuss all that on this episode of Habs Digest, and we'll start with that, and just a fantastic article, as always, linked down below for Athletic subscribers. Please go take a look, but Arpen pretty much just says, look, Canadians hope to escape the NHL's middle, but so does every team, and that's a very good point, as Jesse, he goes on to say that one big challenge is the dream is not unique to the Canadians, and in fact, far from it. Seemingly the entire league, for various reasons, and under varying pressures, is looking to improve by similarly trading futures for immediate help. And he said, look, some teams believe rightfully or wrongfully that they're in a competitive window and we're either hindered by injuries or a poor season. And Jesse, the list of teams there is huge. I'm not going to name every single one of them, but you can read them all. They're Blues, Devils, Predators, right? That's basically a quarter of the league that is in the same position as Montreal. So even though we have a bunch of draft picks heading into this draft, we have a bunch of players moving these assets for something big, unless Kent is ready to overpay. It might be difficult, but hey, we've heard that might be exactly the thing that Kent Hughes is planning behind the scenes here.
And that's, I think, the master plan from Kent all this time is really to amass those picks, to get those chips, Josh. And Kent's cooking. He's going to look to trade that in really at the right time. Like, I really believe here, Josh. Like, again, I'm a believer when it comes to this. Like, we have 11 draft picks. Like, this is an arm ranked, and Kent is coming up to the show just like fully loaded. We see the Flyers. 11 picks as well. You got teams, other rebuilding teams, kind of like Anaheim, and also, the usual specs like Chicago Blackhawks in there as well. But like the Habs, even as we got into the playoffs last year, we're coming into this draft year with the most picks. So I think we have the most motivation with the most ammunition to really make this happen. But we're going to need to be strategic because we got cap space, but we're still, even with Carey Price on LTIR, we're still in about that middle of that kind of, he doesn't make the point much middle. I don't know if I want to say that. We did make the playoffs last year there. I think we need to give this team a little bit more credit. But that being said, like, we need to be strategic, knowing that, okay, we're about in the middle in terms of cap space of other teams that are looking to add to this team. That being said, you don't need all the cap space in the world when you have all these ELCs, all these young guys like Beck, Kaiden that are coming onto your team, getting roster spots, and obviously already on very affordable deals for this team. So for me, if we can get like that 2C, I think that's great. That bottom pairing, right-hand D. We're going to talk like, is there a way that we can maybe use a little bit of that cap space? We know our first priorities, but like it would be such a well-executed offseason. We could get those priorities and then kind of weaponize a little bit of our cap space there to maybe add to the bottom six. We're going to get a little bit more into that in just a second.
Yeah, exactly, because there's a few names, one in particular we're going to focus on, again, that said they'd love to sign with Montreal, that fits that bottom six bill, a guy who has better advanced metrics than Christian Dvorak, but stick around for that a little bit later. But again, there are other moves happening right now in the NHL, Jesse, that, Montreal could very well be on the other side of. We'll talk about that in a moment, but yeah, like, leave your thoughts on how you think Montreal will fare against these other teams, because I know a lot of other teams are ready to make that move now. I think Montreal is unique in the sense that we're willing to trade picks, but not our young roster players, right, for that top-end talent, whereas other teams might be more willing to trade young players for more established talent. So that's where it's a bit interesting. But when you look around the landscape of the league, and I will link an article down below that kind of inspired this by William Beauvillier, but we just want to dive into some stuff right now about the landscape of the NHL trade market, because look, we're seeing trades go down. Erik Haula was traded to Nashville for Jeremy Hanzel and a 4th round pick. Like, not much, just to get off of Erik Haula's deal, to improve your cap space. Nashville takes on a player that kind of lost a bit of an offensive step, but is fast and can play pretty good defense. And it's not just them. We saw the Mason Marchment trade. Marchment has been a key contributor to Dallas and pretty much everywhere he's been, Florida before that, for years and years. Has been a very solid middle six guy, even playing in the top 6 at times. This past season declined a little bit, but traded for a 3rd and a 4th. And again, when we look at Montreal's draft capital and we look at Montreal's position with their roster, bringing in veteran guys like this, Jesse, to help out other teams who are a little bit cap strapped, that could very well be the way Montreal goes. Because, look, in a trade, you can also control some stuff. In a trade like this, you could take on some cap to alleviate other teams' problems, give up one of your plethora of picks, but then maybe in a later trade, if you want to get a 2C, you're like, oh, what if we don't have the cap space? You can move off of some big deals. To me, this is something that Montreal should be looking at. I'm sure they are, to try and help other teams. It's a prime opportunity because these are not the only two guys that fit that bill.
For sure. And Ken has been so good at this in the past of being able to use a little bit of this cap space, again, to either get those teams or get picks, kind of depending. But in this situation, I have to feel like Kent's using a little bit more, getting the player, right? Where I fully expect Kent to trade at least one of our picks in, obviously, out of the 12 selections that we have on this draft day. You could probably see a strong move might be to really package this up. Again, speaking to just what we've been, saying lately on the show, we have the depth. It makes a lot of sense to really, if you're not getting an impact player, if you feel on the market there in a lot of ways, maybe still look to do the trades. But even with the draft, I still think it makes sense to package that as much as possible. We have the depth. Now we're really looking for that talent. I think that makes sense within the first round, but even also, for the second and third rounds, which obviously we have some plethora of picks there as well. But what I love about making the playoffs now, Josh, is like, we now get into this fun conversation where we can say like, oh, wouldn't it be so awesome to add like a vet to our bottom six? Because I think like somebody that plays a little bit, maybe more of a physical game within that bottom six, like I don't think we have tons of room. Is there a little bit more space for kind of those vets as we're looking to get into the playoffs, which I think could be probably exactly what we need now? Again, I think Anderson and fair defense Gallagher are doing that role really well, but it's exciting. We have those young guys, and we're really at the crossroads, Josh, where we know something's going down because we need a little bit more of that experience. We got too many young guys, so you have to feel like a trade is coming.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that transitions very well into this next section where like people want to come to Montreal now, and mostly Quebecois people, as we're going to mention. But like when you look at this roster and you talk about needing, wanting a bottom six talent, like someone that brings some physical punch, whatever, where do they go? That's my question now, because you look at this team here, those forward lines, those 12 forwards, who there is not a guarantee to make the roster next season. Kapanen is the first guy that stands out. Maybe Emil Heineman, because again, the production wasn't quite what we wanted, especially after he broke his wrist, got hit by the car by a Mormon. But like when you're looking at this team now, there's no one that's guaranteed to not make the roster next year. And if you're adding a bottom six talent, are you kicking Emil Heineman out? Maybe there's players that have a higher impact than him right now. It would suck for Heineman, but like, that's the thing. If we do want to add bottom six talent, I think you're bang on the money that something else has to come here. Some other name has to be going out in some kind of deal. But we're going to talk about what we recently read about Anthony Beauvillier. And the source for this will be linked down below from La Presse. And Anthony Beauvillier was asked, he wants to stay in Washington, but they might not be able to keep him. He said the contract negotiations aren't going as well as they thought they would. So he said, talking about Montreal, he said, it's a team I'd strongly consider. It would be an honor to play for my childhood team. We'll see what happens. But the door is not at all closed to the Canadiens. And Jesse, he has some history with Quartex, right? So he knows a bit about Kent Hughes, especially as an agent, saying such a good hockey head. He sees things in a different way. I've always believed in what he's done in the deals he's made. And again, someone like an Anthony Beauvillier, like, look, we talk about needs for this team. Losing Christian Dvorak and Yoel Armia, two of our penalty killers, Armia on the PK1, Dvorak on the PK2. Now, Armia, again, might still be back, who knows? It looks like we're not getting Dvorak. You still want some impact guys, right? And, unless you want Dach and Newhook to be guaranteed to play center this year, Beauvillier actually has some better advanced metrics. I believe Marc Dumont did an article on this today. He doesn't really play center. He doesn't take faceoffs, but he had 15 goals. Jesse, does this even really fit the bill for you? Because to me, it's like, it's cool that these guys want to play for Montreal, but as much as they want to play, and like, he is an impact player in the league in the bottom six, I just feel like unless we're getting a guy that's a clear upgrade over one of our bottom six guys now, I'm not even calling him up as much as maybe some people would like him on a small deal.
Well, that's just it. And that's why we're passing here on this situation, even though that's still a fairly respectable production there with the 15 goals, 25 points. That potential's always been there, and that's what's frustrating. Like, there's things that we liked, and there was a time where maybe he could have really well fit the Montreal Canadiens. He plays with a little bit of pace. He's not really pushing the needle. He's getting a production kind of similar to a Newhook when we know Newhook's got that similar gear. For me, if he's playing like a third line center, expect for Alex Newhook. I've been saying this all last year. I've been waiting for this opportunity for us to get the 2C. It's not just to help out Nick Suzuki. It's to help Alex Newhook as well. He's going to be buying him beers for days after that 2C because this is going to free him up to be that another impact player that Alex Newhook can be. I just think there's so much impact on maybe betting on a guy like that, like getting that 2C. I think that's why it's so important, because it solidifies your depth as well in your bottom six, where I'm happy of running a guy like Evans and Newhook there in my bottom six, while knowing that Beck and Kaiden are just chomping at the bit. They're probably playing a little bit of wing and looking to kind of get some reps in at center, which I think they should as well. And to really make Newhook and Evans both earn it, to be fair, right now with this youth movement that's coming up for the Montreal Canadiens. So it's really that difference. But we know there's going to be a lot of movements. And if Kent is packaging a couple of players together, what can look, kind of like a position of strength one day, and like you have a lot of players, obviously you can use a little bit more. But I think kind of getting a little bit more of that quality over that quantity is key. But, Beauvillier isn't quite that piece right now.
Yeah, and again, like if we move out a couple of players to bring someone in and there is a void in that bottom six, hey, I'm all for it. Like, he's a veteran, he can produce, has some decent underlying metrics. You only have to play him 12, 13 minutes a night. He's played some time on the second penalty kill unit with teams if there have been other injuries. So, like, it's not the craziest thing in the world, definitely not the best thing in the world, but hey, it's good to see some people, even though they're Quebecois, saying they want to play for Montreal. Leave your thoughts on Beauvillier and the whole situation down below, because that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. Thank you for tuning in every single day. Oh boy, we're getting very, very close to some very fun times. I'm Josh Goss, my co-host Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.